a mirror before on the dark web that will like kind of do a bit of a string search, but it'll
This is cool. Let's podcast it. Yeah. let's do that for the podcast. Okay, I'm ready.
What's the plan, person? Welcome back.
CyberSpace
Podcast. Empirical trading. Do you know what I mean? So they're like empirical trading.
Welcome back.
So welcome everyone to the CyberSpace podcast. Joined here today with Robbie Vaughan. We're missing Josh, and you're missing the normal intro to the podcast, but you've got me doing it instead. So on this week's podcast, like I said, I'm joined by Vaughan. You want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the CyberSpace podcast.
And we're also joined by Robbie as well.
Evening.
So we're joined by the three musketeers today. Josh, unfortunately, lost his phone on the weekend, so we can't get hold of him. If any of you can find him, please email team@empiricaltraining.co.uk.
Yeah, drop an L in the chat for Josh because he's lost his phone. He's gone MIA, and we're concerned for his safety. And he was. Where did you leave him? In his car, trying to buy a map to get back to London because he hasn't got maps on his phone because he lost it.
He's got no sat nav in his car either, so he's
got no sat nav either.
He's gonna have
to go back to basics.
Yeah,
so stopping and asking for directions.
If anybody's got any tips on using a compass and a map to get back to London and to drive through London as well.
From South Wales, what a trek that is. That is literally over the mountains.
But yeah, this week we're going live as we will be doing every week now through our school community. That's school with a K. And this is where we field questions from everybody in the community, where we talk all things cybersecurity. But you don't have to ask us things about cybersecurity if you don't want to. But that's what we focus on. And after the Q&A, then one thing that a lot of people have asked us about is how to overcome imposter syndrome in cybersecurity. So that's where we're going to start after the Q&A is over. But who's got any questions then? We're waiting on a couple of questions. Field some questions to us so we can.
If you've got any cyber related questions or anything that's concerns your specific journey into going into cybersecurity, or if you've got any random questions that you would like to ask us to get to know us a little bit more, because we post on socials, we do these podcasts, but most of the conversations are just centered around tech or cybersecurity. We've got the 4 introductory podcasts in the very beginning that gives everyone a clearer picture of like our backgrounds and how we got into cyber. But yeah, just shoot away some random questions.
We've got a comment from Pierre. Yeah, Josh is in the pub with a local beauty. I don't know if he is. That's not the last place I saw him, so I can't comment on that.
Nah, I reckon he's in bed with Selfsig, the cat.
Yeah, he's definitely in bed with his cat.
Should we speak on the imposter syndrome topic then to start it off?
Yeah, okay, then we'll start off with that then while we're waiting for questions. So it is a big thing that has come up, and it's not something that I thought about too much. I guess I just didn't know what it was when I started in cybersecurity. So if I didn't know what it was, then how did I know if I was actually feeling it? Probably sounds stupid, but I remember Josh actually mentioned it to me, and he said that he felt like an imposter when he started in cybersecurity, and that he wanted to know how to overcome imposter syndrome. So does anybody want to start? Has anybody felt like an imposter while they've been in cybersecurity or since they started?
Yeah, for me, because I didn't have a background in cybersecurity when I initially made the decision to try and break into the industry, I worked hard. I learned the things that I needed to learn, and I was actually lucky enough to have that mentor in the beginning. If you go back and listen, you'll see it's all broken down in that pod. But once I got the job, there was a lot of things, and like my knowledge competency was at a certain level, but it was fairly low. I needed to really climb the ladder in terms of my knowledge set. So I was playing catch up, and I remember being in meetings and people were chucking around these phrases and these words and terminology, and it was all going straight over my head. and I go straight back to my desk. And back in those days, I actually did have a pen and paper next to my keyboard, and I would write down these words or these sentences that were spoken in these meetings, and I'd have to just go research them in the evenings. And I wasn't too overwhelmed. I was just sort of head down. I knew what I needed to do, and I was just cracking on. It wasn't really a buzzword back then in like 2016, imposter syndrome. It was sort of more coming into play, I don't know, closer to lockdown and before like 2019 or whatever, for me anyway. But yeah, everyone has imposter syndrome. You get to a certain level and then you're making a certain amount of money or whatever, and you think, oh, do I deserve this? But we're all just playing the game of life. It is a game. It's ups and downs. It's smiles and frowns. It's a game of snakes and ladders. It is like you climb a ladder. You think you're at a nice spot, and then life has a funny way of sort of, serving you up a nice piece of humble pie, and you slide down that snake again and sort of have to start again. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think everybody feels it. I think that's one of the main things to start with, is everybody, whatever industry you're going to be in, has probably felt like an imposter at some point. And it's definitely when you're starting out in cybersecurity. Now I've had the experience that I've got, I feel a lot more confident. And I think that's one of the main things that I can say is just, once you get the experience, just be consistent with what you've got to learn. Like, you're not going to be able to know everything. Not there's, as Pierre mentions, there's always somebody who knows more than you, and that's exactly it. But the one thing that clicked with me is that I started feeling comfortable saying I don't know something. As soon as I started feeling comfortable saying I don't know, and I didn't care if people didn't think that I didn't know something, I kind of got over it. I was like, well, I don't know. If I don't know, then I'm going to learn. So if I can do that rather than just pretend that I know something, then so you're always going to get caught out by the person that knows more than you. So you may as well just say you don't know, ask them to teach you the subject as best they can, and then kind of move forward from it. But I know that, Vaughan, that you obviously as a SOC lead, you get a lot of people who have approached you feeling like that.
I mean, personally, I've got a bit more of an abrasive approach on it and definition. I think imposter syndrome definitely gets conflated sometimes. For example, something that I experienced myself, I thought I was having imposter syndrome around malware analysis because I didn't know malware analysis, but in fact, I was actually just an imposter. I wasn't having imposter syndrome about malware analysis. I actually did not know malware analysis, so I was technically an imposter. So I think it's definitely an important distinction to make if you're trying to analyze if you have imposter syndrome or not. Do you actually know something, and are you still worried that you don't know it because that is imposter syndrome, or do you actually not know the point that you believe you know? And then conflating cybersecurity as a whole thing. If you feel imposter about cybersecurity, maybe you don't know enough, but then try and break it down to help yourself out. Okay, so I know how to use a SIEM. I know how to use a SIEM very well. I shouldn't have imposter syndrome about a SIEM. If I do, it probably is imposter syndrome. Or do I actually not know enough about a SIEM as I think I do? So I hope that kind of makes sense.
Or if you're not feeling imposter syndrome, are you complacent in your role, especially in cybersecurity? So are you thinking, oh yeah, I know everything there is to know about this role, and you've got the blinkers on, you're very narrow-minded in that sense, because it's very tricky to actually be sitting in a role in cybersecurity and say that you know everything, because the landscape is always changing and it's such a broad level of knowledge. You can't possibly know absolutely everything.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point there, really, that you figure out the things that you do know, and then figure out how well you know those things. And to help with that, Vaughan actually created a skills matrix in our community. So you go to school with a K, and you go to our free community, and there's a skills matrix there showing the various skills that are required for cybersecurity. We don't expect you to know all of those skills. We personally don't know every single one of those skills, but it can help you just pinpoint where you currently are and where you need to get to. Because like we say, just say that you don't know. Don't be somebody that is pretending to know a specific technology, because that's what's going to make you look like an imposter, and that's what's going to make you stand out to these employers. If you've made it into a company, or you're even in an interview, especially in an interview, if you lie about a certain topic and you pretend that you know it, they're gonna catch you out. You're better off saying, I don't know this at this time. Can you give me some resources that can help me learn that? And if I don't get through to this interview, I'd love to go back and try again with once I've understood this topic. But I think that's the key thing, is to make sure that you just say that you don't know, because that really helped me. As soon as I started saying that I didn't know, then I started to learn a lot more. And in cybersecurity, you're constantly learning. You have to be, to stay on top of stay on top of what is going on.
Yeah, and from my experience being a mentor and a team leader, from a mentee perspective, it's an amazing soft skill to have, is to be teachable. So be the person that likes asking the questions and appreciates the feedback, and the critical feedback included. The more teachable you are as a mentee, the more people will gravitate towards you in terms of mentors, because they feel like they can actually pass some information on to you. Personally, for me, I like gravitating to the people that want to be taught, because I feel like my effort of mentoring is received well and is valued. So yeah, be teachable, be the person that is a pleasure to be menteed, and you'll find that more and more mentors naturally gravitate towards you.
Yeah, take a logical approach to cybersecurity in terms of like your knowledge set and your competency level. You've always got to be learning. You've always got to be setting yourself new tasks and new goals, and looking at different data sources and concepts. If you do that, then I don't think you'll ever have any time to reflect and think, oh, I'm suffering from a bit of imposter syndrome here, because you're always working towards a goal. You're always going to be learning something. So yeah, get on your, work on some projects, make sure that you've got courses that you're following, make sure that you're checking in with people and asking, am I on the right path? Should I be learning something else? This is the whole reason why you guys are here and you guys are listening, is because you want to better yourself. You want to break into the industry, and this is the space to do that. The free tier in empirical training, the community is absolutely flourishing. the amount of people that are posting in there is incredible. Everyone is given a lot of useful insights, and yeah, this is the place to be.
Yeah, and I think that's what the key takeaway, and especially what Vaughan was saying there as well, about be somebody that is willing to learn. And we've gone through the process of now where we're looking to become mentors, and we've been mentors through the roles that we've been in over the years. And all of the people that were willing to say that I don't know something, or willing to learn a topic, or even come to me with a topic. So there was a junior analyst who would come to me and be like, oh, I don't understand this. What does it mean? And then there would be times where I'd be like, actually, I don't know that either. Should we learn it together? And they're looking at me like, well, you're working as a senior analyst and you don't know this. I was like, hey, yeah, honestly, I can't know everything. So we can go through this together. And I actually had a story from a previous job where he was a junior analyst, and he was really smart and really switched on, and he'd been there for like 4 months. And I would ask him questions, and he's like, I can't believe you're actually coming to me for answers. I was like, well, you've come into this role with like great Python skills and great knowledge about cybersecurity. And there's certain areas, such as he was fantastic at Windows and understanding attacks on Windows. So I was like, why wouldn't I ask you? Like, you've got the skills there. That is the reason that I'm asking you. And if we don't know something, we either learn it together, or most of the time you know the answer. So it just happens that I've been in the industry longer. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't care about asking a junior analyst if they've got the answer. I'd rather go to them than just try and figure it out myself, because it's going to be a better way to learn. So even people who are in the industry listen to this as well. Don't look down your nose at junior analysts, because they can be really, really helpful, and they might come back around where they might be your boss one day. And if you were a dick to them, or if you were a knob to them a couple of years ago, then it might stop you from getting a job. So that's definitely something I've noticed over the years.
And you have to work as a team as well. That's why I enjoyed it in the very beginning when I joined the first company. It was a big team, and we were reviewing logs manually, kind of. And there was somebody that I could go to if there was, you know, a Windows log, or if it was network based, then there was a network SME, and then we were just venturing into reviewing AWS logs as well, weren't we? And we created some save views for that. And like Pete was really good, and he was like kind of the one that was focusing on AWS in the beginning. So Pete was the AWS wizard, and everyone had their own little niche subject that they were zoning in on. And I think that's useful to know as well, that you could be a jack of all trades, and then you can kind of focus on one concept or data source, and then lean on that, you know, look at jobs that are more focused around like the AWS tech stack, or if you really want to focus on Azure, Microsoft Azure, then look at jobs that are going to be using that technology. You don't necessarily have to know everything. You can figure out what you're interested in and what you're passionate about, and then just get a role that facilitates that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where it comes down to, is like you'll build the confidence through the knowledge. So if you're thinking, I'm an imposter, I shouldn't be here, well, take confidence in that there is a way out, and the way out is actually trying to learn or speak to mentors like Robbie mentioned, and just own up and just say that you don't know, and then feel like that is the confidence that you need to start learning. Because you could just sit there and just be like, oh, I'm an imposter, feel sorry for yourself. Well, that's not going to help. That's not going to get you through and become that expert in that certain area, or just not even expert, just to understand that subject area a lot more. So definitely look at the knowledge as a way to be take yourself out of that current situation, because just dwelling on it is not going to do anything. And even learning the knowledge is going to take you out of feeling like an imposter, but it's also going to take you to the next stage in your career. So there's a double side to it there as well. So one other thing as well, seek mentorship. That is something that we obviously bang on about, and that's why we've got the school community. Get the mentors, and even if you're trying to if you're a junior analyst and you're trying to move into more of a mid-tier or senior, well, speak to other mid-tier and senior analysts and see how they got where they got to. And I think, like, Vaughan, how in your role as a team lead, how do you recommend that people move up from like a junior to seniors and things like that?
Great question. In all honesty, it completely depends on the organization that you're working in. I've been doing a lot of interviews the last 2 weeks for a senior SOC analyst role that I have open. And a lot of the candidates that we speak to, we always quiz about how their SOC structure is set up and the hierarchy and the sort of work that they do, just to try and gauge their practical application and what they understand. And what we've been seeing recently is some SOCs have their analysts massively siloed, which is something I spoke about in the gold community, where they are only having them focus on incident triage and tuning. So they're not getting any exposure to threat hunting and use case creation, those sorts of things. And then we've spoken to another candidate recently that do have a bit more application across all different areas. They are doing the tuning and the threat hunting and the use case creation. However, that is a flat hierarchical SOC. So there aren't any seniors. Everyone is just a cybersecurity analyst. However, they do have people that are at a level 1 and a level 2 and a level 3, but they all have the same job title. So long story short, it completely depends on the organization you're working in. If you are working in a hierarchical SOC, which has level 1s, level 2s, level 3s, ask your team leader, ask the people in those roles what they do on a day-to-day basis, because a lot of times the roles and responsibilities will be tiered out. So, incident triage, sometimes tuning can be level 1s. Level 2s will probably do the more incident response-based activities, use case creation, and level 3 will be the more running and orchestrating of the instant response, and maybe they're passing threat hunt hypotheses and stuff onto level 2s and level 1s. But your first bet to get to those next levels is first to understand what those levels do. And the best way to do that is either ask the team leader or ask people to work in those roles. So what I would do if I was a level 1 and we had level 2s and level 3s working with me is essentially ask them, what do you do on a day-to-day and how do I do that? Or can you teach me how you do that? And only by, again, seeking mentorship, seeking guidance, building those skills, asking someone, can you show me how you do this, which I don't know how to do, will you be at that level where you can then qualify to be in that role for yourself?
Yeah, it's putting yourself out there as well, isn't it? It's not being afraid to try and take on a task that could seem a little bit daunting. There are cybersecurity companies out there in the UK that are quite siloed. I remember there was a guy that we worked with, Curtis Vaughan. I'm not going to mention the company that he used to work for, but I remember him telling us that there was level 1 analysts or junior analysts, and they'd work an incident, and then if the severity level was like high or critical, they weren't even allowed to work it. They'd have to escalate it up to either a level 2 or a level 3, which is, I understand why, but then you're taking that experience away from those level 1s. Like, how are they ever going to learn, or how are they ever going to progress? And it creates a bit of a toxic work environment where, you know, certain analysts think that they're better than others, and I think it like that definitely shone through at points just from the feedback that he was giving us. I kind of dropped his name anyway, so people will be able to figure out who he used to work for, but we're not going to say his last name.
And that's something we can probably have a completely separate discussion about, Rob, myself and yourself, like mainly around like SOC strategy and all those sorts of things. Sorry, AJ, coming from the incident response background, but probably definitely a topic for another conversation. Like, you know, how can you identify a good SOC organization to join compared to a bad one based off of the roles and responsibilities they have and your application for progression in those roles? I think that'd be a really interesting topic if the community
what questions should you ask in the interview setting to ensure that the right structure is in place at that company? Because for you to be able to grow and have chances and get experience and exposure to the right skills and roles within that company. Because if you come into one that's super siloed, and then they you just log in and flog in and basically just doing all of the dirty work and doing, you know, jobs that no experience and that aren't really interesting, then you're going to do it for like 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year if at best, and then you'll end up moving on somewhere else, which isn't a bad thing. But then that you're not going to some people are going to be spending a year and they'll get way more experience, and then they're going to be further along in their journey. I know that you shouldn't really compare yourself to others. You're always at a battle against yourself, but you could be giving yourself a better opportunity anyway. But it's an interesting point, isn't it?
And another point on that one as well, I was speaking to someone on our TikTok account before. They were asking me, you know, how do I know when I should move companies and all this sort of stuff? And we had quite an in-depth convo about it. And the first question I asked him was, what do you do on a day-to-day? How does your week look? And he said, honestly, about 70% of the stuff I do is reports. I create reports basically all day, every day. And I was like, yeah, that's down to your organizational setup and how your SOC is configured. You're a level 1, and to the point, Rob, that we're saying, they're going to give the level 1s majority of the donkey work and the boring work, just to give it to someone because it's low value, low priority. So he isn't getting any opportunity to grow and improve. And I said, obviously, I can't make the decision for you, but you're probably best off looking at somewhere where you can gain actual tangible experience to help you progress in your career.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a really good conversation to have, actually, about, because everybody wants to go for their first job. And usually I would say just take a job. If you get in there, you can get your foot in the door. But not every job is going to be what you might think. And you might get in there and you think, oh, this isn't exactly what I wanted. But once you've got that bit of experience, you're going to be able to use the information that Vaughan and Robbie have got about more sophisticated and better set up SOCs to be able to move into a better company, or maybe even do that off the bat if you're coming straight from learning the fundamentals and moving into a role as well. And that's only going to help. That structure of a SOC is also going to reduce that imposter syndrome, because you know exactly where you need to get to. And a lot of the imposter syndrome that people do face is that they don't know exactly how to get to the next level. They just think that they're either not good enough because people aren't showing them or telling them what they need to do. And usually that's around the SOC structure. And if the operations center isn't set up correctly, then your analysts aren't going to be able to succeed, or they're most likely just going to move on, like we've seen in previous companies, isn't it?
Yeah. Manish has got a question saying, how much time did it take to get your first cybersecurity job? That is a very hard question. It's very subjective. It depends on the person and what's going on, and it's all, you know, time based as well. Because like for my situation back in 2015, I think I spent like 7-8 months like self-taught, learning some like using open source materials basically, and then I was lucky enough for a company to take a chance on me. But for other people, it depends on your level of competency, the foundational knowledge that you have in terms of like Windows and networks and database and Linux, and yeah, it's all very, very situational.
Yeah, I guess for me, I laugh when I say this, but technically it took me 4 years. And the reason for that is I done a degree. I mean, if I wasn't doing the degree and I was learning for myself, I think I probably could have done it in about a year and a half. But
Yeah.
that also takes into account that I did IT and programming related stuff at school during A levels and GCSEs. So I wasn't starting at the complete blanket start. I had, your typical programming and Excel experience and that sort of stuff. So it wasn't bottom bones, but if I didn't do the degree, I think I probably could have definitely done it a lot faster. However, with the degree, you have that safety net, I guess, of being taught and lecturers and all those sort of things to keep you accountable.
Yeah, definitely. I think because we spoke about that, didn't we? People asked us how long did it take us to get in, and I did the same. But I did a business and IT degree, so that was 3 years, and then it was probably 9 months after I graduated. Then, so I did probably about 6 months of extra learning because I didn't do any cybersecurity in university except for the penetration testing dissertation. So I needed to know the fundamentals of cybersecurity. So I started learning that. And then it was, probably 9 months until I secured a job. And after the 6 months, it was just applying for jobs every single day until I got interviews, failed a lot of those interviews. You're probably going to fail a lot of them. And then eventually something will come your way. But like Robbie says, it all depends on the person, doesn't it? We can't advise on if you're going to turn up to your lectures every day, for example, or if you're going to turn up and do your own learning every single day. That's going to be down to you. So as Vaughan mentioned, year and a half, maybe you could do it less. It depends on the person, but you need to know the IT fundamentals, especially to start with, and then you get your cybersecurity fundamentals, and then you need to narrow and focus down on an actual role. So I think that's what we get questions about, actually, like where should people start, and what's the role that we usually recommend.
Yeah, take the guesswork out of the situation. So if you want to become a SOC analyst, like a blue team junior cybersecurity SOC analyst, then look at the roles and responsibilities that exist in that particular job. Then break those down, look at your skills matrix, download that skills matrix from the empirical training community, take a look at what you already know, take a look at what you need to know, set targets for those, break that down into sections, weeks, months, concentrate on that, supplement those with projects, reach out to us, let us know where you're at, ask questions to make sure that you're on the right path. And then you want to have everything so always have that interview in the back of your minds. You've got everything that you need to learn, all of the roles that exist in a junior SOC analyst role, and then try and tailor that learning path to the interview setting, where ultimately you just need to showcase that you have those skills that is expected in that role. And that's all it really boils down to. At some point, we're probably going to be doing some Q&A calls or webinars or group calls going over some expected questions or scenarios that normally come up in the interview settings. But I think that's something for later on down the road, isn't it, for us? Because I don't think anyone's really at that stage right now with the people that we're working with closely in our paid community.
Yeah, so that's why we run the goal tier community. It's like that one-on-one or one-to-many mentorship, but you get more access to us. You get access to the specific course work that is required to be a SOC analyst, and that's where we break things down, such as SIEM, incident triage, customer service. That's actually something that people forget about in cybersecurity, but I think we've seen it, haven't we, Robbie, that some of the best analysts that we've probably worked with actually are well skilled in customer service, especially in like a managed service company. Also different attack types, so different ways that companies can get attacked and how to actually defend against those attacks, different types of analyst tools. This is the kind of stuff that we're actually teaching in our gold tier community in school, which is school with a K. and it's something that people are getting value from, because once they've done that theory-based work, then we've got the projects then that are giving people the practical skills based on the theory that we're showing them as well. So you're setting up a SIEM, deploying malware to a Windows host and detecting that in your SIEM, all of these projects that you can do from home, so that when you come to setting up your CV, which we're also helping with, and applying for those jobs, we're going to be showing you theory-based work and practical skills that's going to go on your CV. So it's going to make you stand out from the other candidates that aren't getting this same kind of mentorship as well. So I think that's definitely something to mention anyway. I know Pierre's mentioned there. What do you think about the cyber kill chain or the unified kill chain and the cyber kill chain? So this goes into some of the learning that people do get in the Golden related to attack types. So what do we think about what's the unified kill chain? Is that?
Oh, it's a new one for you, AJ, is it?
Oh, is it?
You're learning something new again this podcast.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of the MITRE ATT&CK framework combined with the cyber kill chain. I think Nia made a post in the free community about it. Personally, I'm not a massive fan. I think it has too many sections. But I'm also a MITRE ATT&CK fanboy, so maybe that's part of the reason too. But unified kill chain is a combination between the MITRE ATT&CK framework, going from reconnaissance to impact, combined with the kill chain, which goes from here we go. Probably one of the reasons I don't like it.
Recon to action and objectives.
Yeah.
That's the one. I couldn't think of the first one, recon, yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have. So yeah, if anybody's wondering, no, I have not heard of the unified kill chain, and I've been in cybersecurity for the last 8 years. So there you go. You just heard live on air. There's somebody in cybersecurity saying they don't know something,
and that really is the perfect place to end it, right? The embodiment of the solution to imposter syndrome, that people being a little bit more transparent, that they don't know things, and that's okay, because no one is expected to know absolutely everything. That's probably the toxic trait of cybersecurity, as the boys were saying. And other things the boys were saying, they were making fun of me for not being present, and fair enough. But I get to have the last laugh because I edit these. So here I am, returned from the dead. Yep, I had too much fun in the weekend in Ireland. Got this lovely T-shirt, so everyone who's watching on the YouTube can see. It was a lovely day. It was a lovely few days for a Guinness, and not so lovely time to lose your phone. Getting back to London was a nightmare. We rely too much on technology these days. I really had to put to test my orienteering skills. But I'm here, back in one piece. And you'll be hearing me back as usual. I'm not MIA for too long. I know I'm safe and sound. Thank you for all the concern, boys. Really appreciate you trying to find me and putting it out there to the public. So I mean, thanks very much for covering that off. I hope that everyone found that helpful. Cyber security and imposter syndrome is something that comes up a lot. I can't relate. I've never personally felt it. No, I'm absolutely not. I'm joking. I think everybody feels it in some capacity, even for basic things like when you first start becoming an adult. I've been an adult for quite a while now, and there are times where I still think, hang on, am I really able to sort these things out myself? So imposter syndrome pops up everywhere. I think it's just a healthy part of your body telling you, or your mind telling you, hey, this is maybe not something we've done before. Let's take it seriously. So you can harness that, but make sure you use it for good. Use that kind of feeling positively. Don't let it overcome you. Don't let it rule you, and don't let it disqualify you from putting yourself forward to things. The point I want to echo is just that we have loads of people who I'll post job descriptions for roles saying, hey, I think someone can get this. And then people will just disqualify themselves in the comments. They'll say, I'm not there yet, or I haven't got this and that. But, these job descriptions are absolute wish lists sometimes, and it's not a tick list. You don't have to tick every single line to be the perfect candidate. You just have to tick enough of them. And some of them you might be able to tick with a really big, deep tick, and that might make you ride out some of the other areas. So hiring managers don't always know what they're looking for. To be quite honest, they ask for the world to see what they get. So, believe in yourself, but don't be arrogant. That's I guess the fine line, right? Got to know your limitations and make sure you're constantly working on yourself and improving. Because if you feel like an imposter and you aren't improving in some capacity, well, it ain't going to get any better. So always be moving forward, always be striding forward. So thank you very much for joining us for another episode of the CyberSpace podcast. We are Empirical Training. On the podcast today, all credit goes to AJ, that fantastic intro. It's not easy. It's the worst part of the podcast is doing that intro. And I think he did a great job. Thank you to Robbie and Vaughan as well for sharing their insights. And of course, thank you to the school community for being on there with us, giving us some questions, kind of driving it forward as well. You know, we do a lot of the things we do for them and for you out there. So if you're not in the school community, jump in. There's loads and loads of free stuff. And if you want a pathway, a masterclass even to a SOC analyst, then we have a gold tier available for you as well. And these are the people we kind of really help place get jobs as well. So if that's you want to get a job in cybersecurity, you need a bit of assistance, we are here to be that people for you, because AJ was my assistant. Robbie was also my assistant. He trained me when I first started, and we even helped. And Vaughan joined a little bit after me, and we managed to help him a little bit. So we're just passing it on, and that's the way the world should be, right? So one bit at a time. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the CyberSpace podcast. Take care, everyone. Oh, Robbie would say right now,
I think that might be
that's
it.
a wrap.
I think that's a wrap.